When I picked up the phone to congratulate my son David on his wedding anniversary, my daughter-in-law Sophia looked me right in the eye and said with a chilling smile, "Oh, Eleanor, we sold the cafe. After all, it was just a dusty old place. We're moving on to bigger and better things now." The words hit me like a bucket of ice water. A dusty old place. I, who for 40 years had poured my blood, sweat, and tears into that cafe with my late husband Arthur. I, who had handcrafted every recipe, who had treated every customer like family. My entire life's work was just a dusty old place. I stood there behind the counter of my own cafe, holding the phone as if it weighed 1,000 pounds, watching my son David avoid my gaze while Sophia made herself comfortable on the new booth seating I'd had installed just last week. The new apron, the one I had embroidered for their anniversary celebration, hung uselessly in my closet, along with the illusion of being part of my only son's happiness. I had planned to make a special batch of our signature KARMA coffee blend for the occasion. I had imagined us all cutting a cake together, just like in the old photos where a little David would sit on the counter laughing. But now, I would never be in those pictures again. For weeks, I had planned every detail. I had put money aside to give them $2,000 as an anniversary gift. I had called my sister Clara to tell her the good news. I had cleaned the cafe from top to bottom, thinking they would come to celebrate with me. All of that collapsed in a second with those 7 poisoned words. "Just a dusty old place?" David finally lifted his gaze and said in a rehearsed-sounding voice, "Mom, it was a business decision, a necessary one. We needed the capital to move forward." But I knew it was a lie. I had seen the posts on Sophia's social media. I saw her shopping at expensive designer stores. I saw pictures of her brand new luxury car. I heard her friends buzzing about the exclusive new restaurant they were planning to open. All of this was happening with the money they had made from selling my dreams. I saw everything I wasn't supposed to see. A week later, exactly 7 days after that humiliation, David called me with a completely different voice. He was no longer the confident son who had sold off my life's work. Now he sounded desperate, almost pleading. "Mom, the rent is overdue. The landlord is pressuring us and says if we don't pay this week, he'll kick us out. Did you forget to make the transfer?" His voice trembled slightly, as if the world were ending. I was silent for a few seconds, remembering all the times I had run to the bank to make that transfer. All the times I had canceled my own plans to make sure they had a roof over their heads. All the times I had eaten beans and rice so I could give them money for their desires. And now, after they had ripped the most important part of my life away from me, they had the audacity to call me as if nothing had happened. "David," I said with a calm that surprised even me, "didn't I tell you I only help people who are grateful?" The silence on the other end of the line was so deep I could hear my own heart beating. For the first time in years, it was not I who was trembling, but him. "Mom, I don't understand," he stammered. "We were always special to you. You're like..." Lies. All lies. Wrapped in that sweet voice he only used when he needed something. The same voice he had used to ask me for money for the cafe's renovations, for the new espresso machine, for the down payment on the car Sophia wanted, all of which I had unknowingly financed, never realizing it was all a preparation to sell the very place I cherished. For so many years, I had this constant feeling of walking on eggshells, weighing every word, every gesture, every gift, hoping to get a crumb of affection from my own son. I was the perfect mother, the obliging mother-in-law, the silent provider who never protested when they treated me like I was invisible. But that phrase, "just a dusty old place," awakened something in me that had been dormant for far too long. I had calculated in my head how much money I had spent on them in the last 5 years. Between rent, food, gifts, emergencies, and whims, it was over $50,000. $50,000 I had taken from my retirement, from my savings, from the money my dear husband Arthur had left so I could live my last years in peace. And what was all that for? To be treated like a stranger on the day my own cafe was sold from under me. That night, after I hung up, I sat on my bed and cried. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of anger, of accumulated frustration, of years of silently endured humiliation. I cried for all the times they made me feel that my love was a burden, my presence a hindrance, my money the only thing I had to offer. I cried for the foolish mother I had been, for the woman who had lost herself, trying to be indispensable to those who considered her dispensable. When I woke up the next morning, something inside me had changed. It was not just the pain of betrayal. It was something deeper, colder. I stood up and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The same tired eyes as always, the same wrinkles that told stories of years of giving love without getting it back. But there was something else in my gaze, a hardness I didn't recognize, a determination that had been buried under years of compliance. I went to the kitchen and made coffee, as I had every morning for 40 years. But this time, I didn't think about calling David to ask how he had slept. I didn't check my phone in anticipation of a message from him apologizing. For the first time in a long time, I was my own first concern of the day. I sat at the table where I had so often planned surprises for them, counted bills for their expenses, and cried silently when they treated me with indifference. Now, this table would be a witness to something completely different. I took out my checkbook, my bank statements, and started to do the math again. I wanted to see in exact numbers the extent of my own foolishness. Monthly rent of $1,500 multiplied by 60 months was $90,000. Food and supplies, approximately $400 a month, was another $24,000. Birthday gifts, Christmas gifts, anniversary gifts, at least $10,000. Sophia's medical emergencies, $5,000. The credit card bills they never paid back, $15,000. $144,000. That was the exact sum of my generosity. $144,000 I had wasted from my husband's inheritance, from my pension, from the savings I had put aside penny by penny for decades of honest work. All that money thrown out the window to keep two adults comfortable who couldn't even pretend to respect me. The phone rang and I saw David's name on the screen. Normally, my heart would have pounded as I ran to answer, hoping he would finally apologize. But this time, I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Finally, it fell silent, and I continued drinking my coffee as if nothing had happened. 10 minutes later, it rang again. This time, it was Sophia. I let it ring too. Then a text came from David. "Mom, please answer. We need to talk." I deleted the message without replying. At 2 odds in the afternoon, I decided to go for a walk. I hadn't done that in months without a specific purpose related to them. It was always the bank for transfers, the supermarket for their groceries, the pharmacy for Sophia's medications. Today, I went for a walk just because I wanted to. I walked past the park where I had often taken David as a child. I remembered that sweet boy who hugged me tight and said I was the best mom in the world. When had he become this man who treated me like an ATM with feelings? When did I start confusing love with money? When did I start to believe I had to buy my own son's affection? At the bank, where I had so often made automatic transfers, I stopped in front of the door. The branch manager, Mr. Gable, saw me through the glass and waved. I had known him for years. He had processed every one of my transfers to David and Sophia. He had watched my account drain month after month to fill theirs. I went inside and walked directly to his office. "Mr. Gable," I told him, "I need to cancel the automatic transfers I have programmed." He looked at me, surprised. For 5 years, these transfers had been as regular as the sunrise. "Are you sure, Mrs. Hayes? Did something happen?" His concern was genuine, more genuine than any interest David had shown in me in recent months. "What happened is that I finally opened my eyes," I replied. "I want to cancel everything, and I also want information on how to protect my accounts. I don't want anyone else to have access to my money." While Mr. Gable processed the cancellations, my phone didn't stop ringing. David, Sophia, David again. It was as if they had developed a radar to detect when their source of income was in danger. I turned the phone off completely. "Mrs. Hayes," Mr. Gable said as he handed me the papers, "I apologize for intruding, but in all these years, I have seen you be very generous with your family. I hope you are not being pressured to make these changes." His words touched me deeply. This man, who barely knew me beyond bank transactions, showed more genuine concern for my well-being than my own son. I'm not being pressured, Mr. Gable. On the contrary, I have finally stopped pressuring myself. When I left the bank, I felt strangely light, as if I had left an enormous burden in that office. For the first time in years, my money was entirely mine. I had no financial obligations to people who saw me as a resource instead of a person. I went home and thought about all the things I hadn't done to please David and Sophia, the trips I hadn't taken, the friends I no longer saw. When I got home, I found 3 cars parked in front of my door. David's, Sophia's, and one I didn't recognize. I could see movement inside my house through the windows. My blood ran cold. They had keys. I had given them keys because I trusted them, because I thought they would one day take care of me. But then I remembered something I had completely forgotten, a manila envelope Arthur had given me a few weeks before he passed. "Eleanor," he had said, "put this in your drawer. If something happens to me, open it after a while, but only when you feel ready." In the grief and chaos after the funeral, I had forgotten all about it. But it was there, waiting for me at home. I took a deep breath before opening the door. It was time for the first real confrontation of my new life. I opened the door to my house and saw a scene I will never forget. David was sitting on my sofa with his head in his hands. Sophia was pacing back and forth like a caged animal, and an older man I didn't know was going through papers on my dining table. My papers. My personal documents. "What is happening here?" I asked, my voice louder than I expected. All 3 of them looked at me as if I were the intruder. Sophia was the first to speak, her voice laced with that desperate urgency I had already heard on the phone. "Eleanor, thank God you're here. We need to talk. Mr. Finch is from the law firm we consulted about your situation." "My situation?" The question came out of my mouth with a calm that surprised me. "What situation? I'm doing perfectly fine." David finally lifted his head, his eyes reflecting pure financial panic. "Mom, we found out you sent a notice to the new cafe owners, claiming the sale was illegal. We don't understand why you did that." It was a lie. I hadn't sent any notice. They were projecting their fears onto me. Mr. Finch, a man in his 50s in a gray suit and a smile that didn't inspire confidence, approached me. "Mrs. Hayes, I am Dr. Finch, a family law attorney. Your children are concerned about your mental well-being and have asked me to assess the situation." I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I went directly to my dining table and collected all my documents. "These are my private papers. You have no right to look at them without my consent." "Mom," David interjected with that condescending voice he had perfected, "we're worried about you. Your behavior has been very strange lately. First you cut us off financially, then you don't answer our calls. We think you might need professional help." Sophia approached, trying to take my hand with that fake tenderness. "Eleanor, honey, we know you're under a lot of stress. Maybe the loneliness is affecting you. At your age, episodes of confusion are normal." The word confusion echoed in my head. Now I understood why they had brought the lawyer. It wasn't about helping me, it was about declaring me mentally incompetent and taking control of my remaining finances. The same woman who had called my life's work a dusty old place was now treating me like a senile old woman. "I am not confused," I said with a firmness that silenced everyone. "I am clearer than I have been in years, and you are all going to leave my house right now." Mr. Finch interjected, "Mrs. Hayes, I understand you feel overwhelmed, but your children have a right to intervene if they believe your ability to make financial decisions is impaired. They have documented several concerning behaviors." "Concerning behaviors?" The laugh that came from my throat was hoarse, almost cruel. "Like what? Deciding that my money belongs to me? Deciding to no longer finance the lives of 2 adults who treat me like trash." Sophia jumped up as if I had slapped her. "We never treated you badly. You are part of our family. Everything you have will belong to us one day anyway. We are just speeding up the process. There it was. The naked, unvarnished truth. In their minds, I was already dead, and they were just collecting their inheritance in advance. Out, I said, pointing to the door. All three of you, get out of my house. David stood up, that angry, childlike face he made when he didn't get his way. Mom, we can't just leave. We have obligations. The rent, the car payments, the credit card you co-signed for. You can't just cut us off. I can't? My voice rose. Who says I can't? For years, I have paid for a life that clearly had no place for me. Mr. Finch placed a folder on my table. Mrs. Hayes, we have prepared some documents, a power of attorney that would allow David and Sophia to manage your finances more efficiently. This would just be temporary until you feel better. I took the folder and, without opening it, threw it directly into the trash can. The only transition happening here is yours to the front door. Sophia started to cry, but they were tears of frustration. You can't do this to us, Eleanor. We were counting on you. We made plans based on your support. Obligations based on my money, I replied. Not on my well-being, not on my happiness, just on my money. And now that I've decided my money is better used in my own life, I'm suddenly a confused old woman who needs legal guardianship. That night, after they had left, I went to my dresser and took out Arthur's manila envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a treasure trove of documents, property deeds, bank certificates, stock certificates, and a handwritten letter from Arthur. My eyes filled with tears as I read his familiar script. My dearest Eleanor, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. Forgive me for not telling you everything while I was alive, but I wanted to protect you from worries. Over the years, I invested our savings in properties and businesses. We don't just have the cafe, we have 6 other properties in the city, including the apartment building where David and Sophia live. And Eleanor. I was the silent majority shareholder of Sterling Hospitality Group, the very company David and Sophia sold the cafe to. And now, it's all yours. You are rich, my love. You always were. But now you're rich on paper, too. My head was spinning. I looked at the documents. The deeds, the stock certificates. It was all true. Sterling Hospitality Group, one of the largest hospitality chains in the city, was now mine. The exclusive restaurant Sophia dreamed of opening was being financed by a subsidiary of Sterling, which meant I was now the owner of Sophia's dream. Arthur's letter continued. I knew David was weak and Sophia was greedy. I didn't want to expose them to this wealth. I wanted them to learn the value of hard work. Perhaps now you can teach them that lesson. Use this power wisely. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked around the house, touching the old furniture Sophia had always criticized. I looked at the family photos on the wall. Where did that sweet little boy go? The next day, I called Mr. Albright, Arthur's lawyer, an old and trusted man. Mrs. Hayes, it's good to hear from you. How can I help? Mr. Albright, I need to see you urgently. I've found some of Arthur's papers. In Mr. Albright's office, when I showed him everything, his eyes widened. Eleanor, Arthur was a genius. This is an empire. You are now one of the most powerful women in this city. I know, I said. And I need your help. I want you to inform the board of Sterling Group that I am the new majority shareholder. But this news must remain absolutely confidential. I want you to represent me on the board. For now, to the world, I am still a poor, helpless widow. I understand, Mr. Albright said with a knowing smile. What do you have in mind? Mr. Albright, I want you to monitor David and Sophia's new restaurant project, Elysian. I want you to make their every step a struggle. Their permits, their loans, their location, everything. I can do that. We can stop their funding, refuse their vendors. No, I cut him off. Don't stop the funding. I want them to spend money. I want them to pour every cent they got from selling the cafe into that restaurant. I want them to get so close to their dream they can taste it. And then, we will take it all away. The next few weeks were the strangest of my life. By day, I played the part of a broken old woman. My neighbors pitied me. Maria, an old customer from the cafe and now a dear friend, would bring me food. "Eleanor, you're all right? David and Sophia did you so wrong." "I'm fine, Maria," I'd say, hiding my inner smile. By night, I became a businesswoman. I spent hours on the phone with Mr. Albright, learning the ins and outs of Sterling Group. I learned that David and Sophia planned to open an incredibly expensive restaurant called Elysian. They had leased a space in the city's most exclusive district. They had hired a famous chef from Europe. They were burning through money, never suspecting that the money was, ultimately, under my control. Mr. Albright began to execute my instructions. The construction permits for Elysian were suddenly delayed due to bureaucratic issues. Their interior designer quit at the last minute. The European chef they hired faced visa problems. Every day, a new obstacle appeared in their path. A month later, David called. His voice was tired and frayed. "Mom, everything is going wrong. The restaurant is delayed. We're running out of money." "Oh dear, I'm so sorry to hear that," I said with false sympathy. "Mom, we need a little more money. Do you have any savings left? Anything from after Arthur passed?" My blood boiled. He had the nerve to ask me for my last pennies. "David, you know the cafe was my only income. I have nothing left." "Oh," he said, dejected. "Okay." A few days later, Maria came to see me. "Eleanor, I saw Sophia at the supermarket. She was screaming at someone on the phone, saying their whole project is collapsing and they don't even have money for rent anymore." It's time, I thought. I called Mr. Albright. "Mr. Albright, I want you to arrange a meeting with David and Sophia on behalf of Sterling Group." "Regarding what?" "Regarding a bailout package for their restaurant. Tell them the group sees potential in their project and wants to help them." 2 days later, David called me, his voice brimming with excitement and hope. "Mom, you won't believe it! Sterling Group, the company that bought the cafe, they want to save our restaurant. They're offering us a new loan. We're saved." "That's wonderful news, son," I said, suppressing my laughter. The meeting was set for the 40th floor of the Sterling Tower, in a massive boardroom overlooking the entire city. David and Sophia arrived dressed to the nines, relief and a touch of arrogance on their faces. They thought their brilliance had finally been recognized. In the boardroom sat Mr. Sterling, the public face they sold the cafe to, a few other board members, and Mr. Albright. David and Sophia looked eagerly towards the door, expecting some old wealthy business tycoon. At that moment, the boardroom doors opened, and I walked in. I wore the same wine-colored dress that Arthur had loved. I had my hair done, a touch of makeup, and a confident smile on my face. Sophia's jaw dropped. David's face went white, as if he'd seen a ghost. "Mom," he whispered. What are you doing here?" I walked to the head of the table and sat in the main chair. "I'm doing what an owner does, David, looking after my business." "Owner, I don't understand," Sophia stammered. Mr. Albright stepped forward. "Allow me to clarify. You are looking at Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, the 90% owner of Sterling Hospitality Group. You sold her cafe to her. You are begging her to save the restaurant that she herself has been systematically dismantling." A dead silence fell over the room. Sophia stared at me, her eyes filled not with disbelief but with pure hatred. This is a lie. It can't be. You're a poor widow." "I was poor because you made me poor, Sophia," I said calmly. "Or, at least, you thought you did. But my husband was always 2 steps ahead of you." I took out Arthur's letter and began to read it aloud. Every word landed like a slap on David and Sophia's faces. When I finished, David was sobbing, his face buried in his hands. Sophia was trembling with rage. "So, all the obstacles, the permits, the chef, that was all you?" she asked through gritted teeth. "Yes," I said. "I wanted to see how low you would go, and you did not disappoint." "You're a witch!" she shrieked. "No," I said, standing up. "I'm a mother who taught her children a much-needed lesson, a lesson in karma. You thought you could sell the Karma Cafe and escape it, but you forgot. Karma always collects. So what now? David sobbed. Are you going to send us to jail? I looked at him, at the broken man who was once my sweet son. Jail? No. You wouldn't learn anything from that. Your Elysian project is terminated, effective immediately. Sterling Group will not invest another cent. All your suppliers will be paid from my accounts. You will have no debt. A flicker of hope appeared in Sophia's eyes. However, I continued, all the money you received from the sale of the cafe, you will return that to Sterling Group because that sale was fraudulent from the start. But we don't have any money left, David cried. I know, I said. Therefore, you have an offer. Sophia, you are free to go. You can leave. You have nothing left. No husband, no money, no dreams. That is your karma. Sophia stared at me with pure venom. Then, without another word, she turned and stormed out of the boardroom. And you, David, I said, turning to my son. For you, there is a job offer. A job? Yes. At the Karma Cafe, as a dishwasher. Minimum wage. You will start there. You will work every day, in the same dusty old place you sold. You will work until you have paid back every single cent of the money you took from me. Perhaps then you will learn the value of hard work and of family. David looked at me. Tears, shame, and for the first time, genuine remorse in his eyes. He slowly nodded. I turned to the board members. This meeting is adjourned. 3 months later, I reopened the Karma Cafe. It was better than ever. I made Maria the cafe manager. Every morning, David arrived on time, put on his apron, and washed dishes without a word of complaint. Customers came and went. Some recognized him and stared in disbelief, but he kept his eyes down and worked. We didn't talk much. But sometimes, when I saw him sitting tiredly at the counter, I'd see a flash of the 5-year-old boy who used to sit there and laugh. Maybe there was hope yet. One evening, as the cafe was closing, he approached me. Mom, he said, I know I don't deserve to be forgiven, but I want to tell you, I'm sorry. I know, David, I said. Now go home and rest. You have to be back at work in the morning. He nodded and walked out quietly. Some nights, as I look out at the city lights from the balcony of my new, magnificent apartment, I think about the woman I was just a few months ago. Fearful, manipulated, believing I had to buy love. That woman is dead, and in her place, a woman has been born who has understood a fundamental truth. True power isn't in money, but in self-respect. And karma is the greatest accountant of all. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I am 72 years old, and I have finally learned that the most important person I have to love and protect is myself. If you liked my story, you can support me by making a donation so I can write more stories. Thank you in advance. And you, what would you do in this person's place? I would love to hear your opinion, so please share it with me in the comments. I'm always curious about what you all think, and also write me where you heard this story. For more life stories like this, like the video and subscribe to my channel. There are many other stories waiting for you. With heartfelt greetings. Until next time, E.